I should have said, knock me down and steal my teeth.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
This is Eric Stokes from Brightside IT in Atlanta, Georgia, and you're listening to Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that intro. I am David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me, as always, is Donna Grindle of Carden, the lady who takes security seriously. What?
Wasn't expecting that one. That's funny, David. That's funny. Little inside joke there, folks. Yeah.
Yeah. If you know what we're talking about, then you're guilty.
Please. Just let me go. Anybody that listens to the podcast and you don't get the fact that we put the humor in it so it's not boring and make HIPAA and privacy and security fun so that you learn, if you're missing that, then we're not for you.
Yeah. We have had one or two, maybe, people over the years that said, I don't think this is funny when you're laughing about privacy and security stuff. And I'm like, but you don't laugh. You don't keep people listening.
Yeah. And, we had somebody write a review about how when they first listened, they thought, why are you making fun of this topic? It should be very serious. But as they listened more, they started to understand why we're taking that approach and appreciate us for what we're doing. Yeah. So, we have had a couple, I refuse to listen to this. We're not for everybody. We know that. We know that we are an acquired taste.
Like a good bourbon.
I know. No.
But so good luck in your security awareness training when you make it boring and blah.
Yeah. There you go.
Doesn't quite work. People definitely remember it when you make them laugh. Mm-hmm. Which is why we are very well remembered.
Go, what did you just say?
Yeah. We'll do that to people. That's why I always like going to the live events with you.
It is fun, isn't it?
It is definitely fun. So,
all of our boot camp attendees know that, which is a perfect segue into
the 2020 COVID session boot camp.
Yeah, the online version. We're trying it. We wait until you see what we've got planned. We're rolling the dice. We're trying something new.
Yep. We're excited about
it.
We'll see. Our team is nervous. They're like, how are we going to do all this technology and pull it off?
I know. Please don't do this the last day. You two do this on the last day. It drives us crazy.
I was like, what? We're actually going to plan this thing? What? Test the technology? Who does that?
That's just not a thing. Yeah. Yeah. So, but we've got a complicated plan so that it feels as much like in person as we can possibly make it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. That's the goal. And if you want to sign up, we're running up to the end of the early bird pricing. It runs out on July 18th. So get on over to thehippabootcamp.com. Ooh, we're in sync today. And check out the information, sign up. If you got any questions, plenty of ways to reach us on the websites, all three of them. And we look forward to hearing from you because it's getting kind of exciting, the number of people that we have in. It's going to be a really good number, really good conversations, I think.
I believe so as well. Mm-hmm. So, yep, people from all over. I think we picked up one from California yesterday. So,
yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, so we've got West Coast. We had somebody sign up from Hawaii. Bless their hearts.
Hawaii? Oh, my goodness. We're going to have to increase our bandwidth. Push the video signal that far.
You're funny. But, yeah. So, if you're interested, join us because it's going to be a hoot to see if we can make this work.
Sure enough, if we can make it work. It'll be fun.
And quite informative.
Yeah.
And you can get your CEUs. Don't forget, we are pre-approved for the Compliance Certification Board CEUs, and you can probably use that certificate with any other, any others you hope that will take outside CEUs.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, if they're pre-approved by one organization, they're pretty easy to get through in others.
Yeah. I had one lady, she's like, good grief, that's more CEUs than I need all year. I'm definitely going to try to attend.
Yeah. I mean, we knock it out of the park, man. You get your CEUs, you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So if you need any more information about that, go to thehippabootcamp.com, as she has said, and get signed up. That's all I can say. And thanks to the donors we have out there. We're not getting blood from them, but we're getting a few dollars. So thanks.
Yeah. Every little bit of support helps us, man. We do, this is a labor of love for you.
I know. We were looking at some other tools to improve things this morning, and we were both like, who's paying for this?
I don't know. We got any money? We have a little bit of money. So the good news is, if we take our time and carefully budget, we can have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, it's not something we're doing to sip margaritas on the beach while money rolls in. That's for sure.
No, hopefully.
I always love those people who are like, start a podcast, make thousands of dollars a month. I'm like, yeah, no.
No.
It's there are people that can and do, but like anything else in any other business, it's not everybody. It's very few people who are able to do that.
Yeah, and we may start taking some sponsorship money because we are getting approached.
Yeah, well, that's another part of it, and we don't talk about it often. It's that for a long time we've refused to. Not that we refuse to make money on the podcast, we just refuse to sell sponsorships and do things to dilute the podcast because we haven't really had a need to do it necessarily. But, as we go on and we're improving things and putting more stuff in place, it starts getting more and more expensive to produce. So
yeah, just, our biggest expense is our time.
Yeah.
Hours upon hours. So
yeah, and you are way expensive for your time, apparently, for what I hear.
Number 2. Okay, so all right, let's get on with it.
Okay, so before we dive into the topic, which I'll tell you what it is, it's going to be COVID-19 testing versus HIPAA. Da, da, da.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because have you seen the testing? Like, I've not had it done, but I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. It's unpleasant at best, according to the people that have had it.
This friend of mine had it done, and she's showing me the video. She's like, there was a sign that said no videoing, so I was like, oh, cool. I have to set my video camera up. So she takes her phone and I guess hides it in the dash of the car, so that it can record what's happening, and you see them take the miniature pugil stick and they stick it all the way up. I mean, it's like, how far are they going with this thing? And then they have to hold it there for 10 seconds.
Yeah, they're rubbing it around in there.
I know. And she's gagging and choking. And then the lady pulls it out and she goes, we're going to have to try the other side. It didn't work good. And I was like, oh no. So they go in the other side and do it again. And she's like, her tears are coming down her face and she can't see. And then the lady, you can't see the nursery because it's one of these drive up things. Mm-hmm. And then you hear the lady go, okay, we're done. You can move along now, and she's like, I can't even see. How am I supposed to drive? It's like water going all down my face and my eyes. I was like, no, I think I'd have to just be sickly before I'm going to get tested, because they just got tested because it was free.
Well, it's good to know there's so many asymptomatic people, and they're learning so much every day. Everybody expected them to know everything about something brand new. It's kind of like when, new equipment rolls out or a new piece of software rolls out, and we're supposed to immediately know everything about it. So,
oh yeah, why not?
Yeah, there
it's
you
like
go.
When Windows 11 comes out. which, from my understanding, there's not going to be an 11. It's just going to be
Something
bunches of
else,
versions, bunches of versions of 10 or something. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know what they're going to call it. Yeah.
who knows?
All right,
But anyway, so we'll dive into that right after a word from our sponsors. Does your business work with medical practices? As a medical practice business associate, do you realize that if you have access to patient information, you have to follow the same HIPAA rules as your client? Call Carden today at 678-292-5001 so they can assess your privacy and security practices to help ensure you are protected and prepared. Visit cardenhq.com to learn more.
2/3 of small businesses that experience a cybersecurity breach end up closing their doors within 6 months. Cybercriminals are targeting your practice and coming after your most sensitive data. Visit us online and schedule a time to talk about what you can do to protect yourself, your patients, and your practice. Our website is securityfirstit.com. That's securityfirstit.com.
All right, we're back. So let's dive into this topic. But I guess before we do that, you did want to go over some quick questions and some follow-up on some things, right?
Yes, I did, because it is interesting, the questions that we get and things that happen that we need to share, right?
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't tell me about it before you hit record.
Yeah. So there's one that he's going to hear it when y'all do, so that I hear what he has to say all at the same time. And so we'll see how this goes. But at any rate, first, let's talk about our listener, Tom. He's the guy that sent us in the con man doing the HIPAA compliant testing. That was funny in so many ways. So there's a lot of folks that listen to us all the time and they don't reach out. And no, we're not good at necessarily always replying, but sometimes, especially if it's quick and easy, we'll throw an answer over. And he sent a question in and asked, and this is a thing that stumps a lot of people that don't spend all day, every day in HIPAA.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't do that, I realized.
Sometimes they don't realize it.
I know, right? So yeah, they know it all.
Yeah, it's just a weekend project.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's just I'll catch it up real quick. I'll catch on quickly. I'll get HIPAA down. I've invested years in it. You go ahead. So anyway, the question was, he's trying to figure out that he's working with a personal injury attorney who, obviously, those personal injury attorneys, and we've talked about them before, they need access to patient records, and they have tons of patient records. So he's got patient records that are loaded up, but he's like, how is it that they don't think that they have to do HIPAA? Because all of this is clearly PHI. It's loaded with all the 18 elements.
Mm-hmm.
And he's absolutely right. It's PHI if it's the possession that matters, if it is in the possession or under the control of a covered entity or business associate. If it's not a covered entity or business associate that it is originating from and being held by, anything the patient authorizes outside that falls outside of HIPAA.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that's easy to think, it's the possession of the medical records is about the healthcare providers because they have such a vast amount of patient information. And if you're classified as a CE or a BA, HIPAA does apply. And if you're not, then it doesn't apply, even if you have patient information on file. So this is a simple rule when it comes to law firms. Obviously there's always some caveats, but in general, if a law firm is representing a covered entity or a business associate and they require access to patient information to do their job, then under HIPAA, they're a business associate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but only if they're representing them in patient cases. If they're representing them in mergers and acquisitions. No, they're not a business associate. So that's important. If they represent the patient, then the patient is authorizing them to have access to their medical records, and it's outside of HIPAA.
Correct.
Thank you for agreeing. And there's get
your 650 copies.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion about that because HIPAA really, just because there's what is classified as PHI under HIPAA is involved, that doesn't mean that the person with the data is subject to HIPAA.
Mm-hmm.
So providers who never file an electronic claim, not subject to HIPAA.
Right. I often say not all health information is protected health information.
Very good, my man. Very good. So it is a very specific definition on who are covered entities and business associates, and information becomes protected health information when it's held by, once they obtain it, it's theirs to protect and secure. Right. So there you go. And so thanks, Tom, for the question. Thanks for the video again. We're still laughing at that dude every time I see that little clip I cut for the picture. The and and it goes on.
They probably have their certification though.
I know, right? Certified.
Here's our HIPAA certification.
I think they said they were certified HIPAA compliant. And but anyway, the other thing that I wanted to share that David hasn't heard yet is so I shared last week about changing bank accounts and trying to update the information with my merchant services company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as I reported last, they had a form that told me to put all of my bank account information and my merchant code, and
email it,
and email this form, or I could fax it. Now, I got the sense to know I'm not going to email it, right? Unless I encrypt it and send all this other stuff. Everybody doesn't have that. Everybody doesn't know that. And especially when the financial services groups are telling you to do something, there is an assumption with most people that they know what to do.
Mm-hmm. And they're giving you information to keep you protected.
Exactly. So they're going to tell you what to do. Here's the thing. I sent an email that said, here's the PCI reference, blah, blah, blah. And the response that I reported was, if you're uncomfortable, then fax it. Otherwise, do email, because our email is secure. And my reply was, it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's that you're not following any industry standards when you tell people to email this. Okay. I assume support tech. And there was a number that said compliance and security people are available until 7 p.m. So I don't want to take time out of my day to provide this public service, I guess, to do this.
Consulting.
And so I wait until the end of the day, 5:30, something like that. And I call this 800 number where it says the compliance and security people are available. But there's no option on the audio to go to compliance and security people. So there's tech support. And then if you have questions about your service or about our services, which sounded like sales. So I go to tech support and they're like, yeah, we don't do that here. We just worry about the machines. Okay, great. Who does worry about it? Well, this is where you go. And hold on, I'll transfer you. So then this guy named Vaughn gets on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're naming names. Vaughn gets on the phone.
I know it's bad now.
Nuvei Payment Technology Network.
Okay.
He gets on the phone and I explained to him this and he goes, well, that's your responsibility to secure your own email. That's your responsibility. If you're going to put it in email, our email's secure. No, if it's not encrypted, it doesn't matter. And people assume you're just, so I make the same argument to him. And, well, ma'am, I'm here to help you with your compliance. And I was like, well, this says if I have compliance or security questions, I can call this number. But yes, it's about your compliance or security. I help you with a PCI toolkit and meet PCI standards. Okay, PCI says you shouldn't email. Well, this isn't cardholder information on your bank account isn't cardholder information. That's different. Oh. I'm trying to remain calm and quiet. And he says, well, hang on. He's basically trying to see if he could get an answer or something. Then he comes back and he says, I really can't help you. Our email is compliant and there's nothing wrong. You're responsible for what happens on your end. And he's still not getting it. It's like, what you don't get is you've got people that are listening to you and they've got their bank account free text on a form sitting in their email sent box. They sent to you because you told them it was okay, just waiting for somebody's email account to get compromised. Our email's secure. It's their problem.
Right. That's not my problem.
Well, ma'am, what do you want me to do? I was like, I would like to talk to the person that's in charge of your compliance and security. Well, I don't know who that is. You don't know who that is in charge of your own compliance and security. Your own. You have no idea who to talk to if there's a concern with your own compliance and security. No, we don't need to do that. I was like, you clearly can't take things that seriously if an employee doesn't know how to report a problem with your own privacy and security. And he goes, well, I guess we don't. And
thanks for your honesty.
I'm like, okay, all right. So he puts me on hold, tries to see if he can find somebody to give it to. No, I can't. And I just don't know how I can help you. I'm here to work with the PCI toolkit. That's all I can do. And I say, okay, well, let me be clear that this is going to happen. I have a podcast every Friday, and I will name your company Nuvei Payment Technology Network and explain that you have no idea about your own privacy and security, but you're worried about mine. Yet you won't tell me if I am going to do something that would be bad security.
Mm.
And he's like, well, and I was like, I'm just being clear. You don't have to do anything about it at this point. I'm just being clear that I'm going to discuss it and I'm going to name the name of your company on the podcast. And maybe nobody will hear it. Maybe they will. But if it comes around your company, I just want to make sure that it's clear this is why I will be doing it. And I will, as soon as I get this bank account switch done, I'll be on a search for a new merchant account. That's for sure.
No kidding.
So let me just say that, and it's clearly a systematic problem. It's a company culture issue. Is all we have to worry about is everybody else's security, not our own.
Yeah. I watched the security videos when they hired me.
No, it's this false belief that ours is secure. We don't have to worry about anything on our end.
Yeah, that's your problem.
We're secure. Everybody else isn't. I mean, just imagine those email accounts, if somebody does infiltrate an email account, it happens.
Well, the other thing too is what does he do when there's a security incident?
Apparently they never have them.
He doesn't even know who to talk to.
That's what I was asking. You don't know who is in charge of your own privacy and security. You have no idea. You don't know who to ask questions about your own privacy and security.
Which, by the way, PCI does require security awareness training, which I would think would be part of that.
No, apparently they're told that not to worry. Everybody else is not secure, but we are.
That's the most dangerous statement any company could ever make.
That they had no idea. I was like, if you have a problem with your own security, you don't know who to contact or what to do. No.
Wow.
I would have no idea.
Wow.
So there you go, folks. If you think you might have people saying that, this is why we tell you it's so important to train your staff what to do when there's a problem. Because someone like me could be calling to tell you there's a potential issue here that could damage your clients and even yourself. Well, he's like, we've never had a problem. I was like, you wouldn't even know.
Exactly.
You wouldn't even know if that's how how would they wouldn't know necessarily how their bank account got tapped out. They wouldn't necessarily be able to trace it back to you.
How many times I've had somebody tell me that they've never had a security incident, there's never an issue, and then as soon as I put my security tools on their network, every alarm possible goes off.
It's like ding, 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 ding.
You don't know because nobody's ever been looking. That's like, hey, I've got a house at the beach and I can tell you that nobody's ever broke into it, though I've never been there to look at it and I don't have an alarm system on it and there are no neighbors around. I just know.
I just know. I
just know nobody's ever broke in.
I'm sure of it.
I can't prove it. I just know it. All right. So that's NUVEI.
Yes. NUVEI, Payment Technology Network.
All right. So we'll be doing a shout out to them on LinkedIn and other places so they can hear what security sounds like, since they apparently don't know what it looks like.
Well, if you take security seriously, you would make the time to, sit on the phone, which I spent over a half an hour of my time trying to resolve this issue, because I'm not, it's not the company I'm worried about, it's their clients,
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, they're not worried about their company, they're secure. So,
yeah. So just remember, if you offer these kinds of services and anybody calls to ask questions about your own security, I encourage you to make sure that people that answer the phone would know to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, because, it might be that the person in charge of security would really be interested to know that this is going on. I mean, I would be like, we can't do that. Take the email off of there. Give us a way to upload it, because they have a portal. Yeah. I got the form off their portal.
Well, they even on their website, they have, quote unquote, underwriting and risk management solutions, including in-house compliance specialists.
Yep. That's who I was talking to.
Interesting.
They can work on yours, but you don't ask about theirs.
Interesting.
Show me yours. Show me yours. I'm not going to show you mine.
I used to live by that mode.
Yeah, I'll give you beads. Anyway, so there's my rant, and it's frustrating. That.
Yeah, it is, because
you don't know, and we've never had a problem is not the answer to a security issue and a concern.
Right. And the bigger problem is when you have security specialists like you and I come into a company and we start questioning these things or pointing out problems, then we often get pushback because they go, well, there's no way I would be dealing with this company that's big and has all these locations and all that. They can't possibly be doing this wrong. Mm-hmm. There's an assumption, just because it's a big company, there's an assumption they're doing it right.
Yep.
Which is why I went berserk on the whole Barracuda thing months ago.
Right. Well, I just have one word to say about the assumption that big companies that are supposed to be doing this stuff right, Equifax.
There you go. Perfect.
That's it. That's all I need to say. That, that should have been a wake up call. And I know people that are in the financial, industry and do security. And yeah, they went through every single thing in their system. Every time they hear, oh, something like this happened, let's go through everything we do. And the way this thing was set up, to me, it looks like something that went around any kind of security concerns. Somebody put that form together that never went, ran that whole form by anybody.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with some of the medical industry things. They put out a form and they're like, fill this form out and email it back to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in doctors' offices. I've seen it with accounting firms. I've seen it with lawyers. There, tons of them. I was applying for some insurance recently, getting an insurance quote, and the insurance company sends me a form, and it's like, put your social on here, put your date of birth on here, put all your family members' names on here, put your your wages on here, put all this on here, and then email it back to me. Like, no, not a chance in hell. No.
Nope. It just,
not a chance.
No. But I actually got a business associate call me, I saw him at a conference, and they said, hey, by the way, I want to ask you something. I have a client that insists they can email me things. Now get this, because I have a password on my email and they have a password on their email, then email's secure.
Yeah.
And that's enough for HIPAA. And so anyway, and as one of our listeners, Beth, shared with me recently a line that she thought of us when she heard. It was really funny. On a Netflix show, Sweet Magnolias, she said she heard this line, and this seems appropriate for what I should have said when Vaughn said, well, clearly we don't. I should have said, knock me down and steal my teeth. Thanks for that one, Beth. I've been holding it for the right spot. Well, knock me down and steal my teeth.
Isn't that why we couldn't record a couple weeks ago?
I know, right? Yeah, my teeth were gone. So, but it was, but it is. That's just we're going to have to make that the sound for, seriously, you should know better than this. But anyway, let's get to the COVID testing. I had to rant and rave about that not rave, rant. Because, I spent a certain amount of time trying to deal with this because I'm concerned. So people, if you get a form and it has all of your information on it, do not, an employee identification number, a social security number, a bank account number, a routing number, and the name of the bank, all the things you need to get into my banking account. Now, thankfully, I'm at a new community bank where I know everybody. Hopefully it wouldn't happen. But if you're with a big bank, that just no time is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And especially right now, this is a serious issue.
Yep.
So there you go, folks. Knock me down and steal my teeth.
All righty. That's the perfect segue. And let's talk about the testing options for COVID. There's no easy way to switch this. We're just going to switch.
There's no segue at all.
We're just going to switch topics.
Yeah, here we go. Just a hard turn right.
Yeah.
So this is coming up a lot. And, we got a question about it from listener Jack that we covered last week.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of things that we all need to worry about, because there's a lot of businesses. They're doing everything they can to get people back to work, but do it in a safe way. Especially when, they had cases where, especially these bars and stuff where I don't remember what city it was. They shut this one place down because they had traced 150 different COVID cases back to one single pub.
Mm.
And, there's a story where 18 people did a surprise birthday party thinking they didn't have to worry about COVID. 18, or there's a bigger group, I think, and then 18 of them now have COVID. 16 friends all go out one night. They have it. So we need to do things to limit exposure. There's a new country song that just came out about in the future when we can get closer than 6 feet. And
seriously?
Yeah, I just heard it last night. I don't remember where it was. There's a couple of them, that it was like, you're beautiful. I can't wait till I can get within 6 feet of you.
But that's a good contraceptive right there.
I know, right? Well, and there's people talking about, how do we date? How do we do everything? And how do we go back to the office? Right. And a lot of folks, I've got good friends and they're in all kinds of different roles in different companies. And, I'm eager to hear how this is being handled because I'm still basically stored at the house. The most I've been around people is I went to Aqua Fitness where I could be all over my area of the pool outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the closest I'd been to anybody. And even then, it was more than 6 feet outside in the pool. So, otherwise, we have to figure out how to do this. And there's all this confusion. People are pushing back. It's crazy. So there's a lot to worry about. If you're taking it seriously for your business, what is it that I need to do this the right way as best as I can? Because we also have to realize this is still changing. It's just like we talked about earlier. I mean, we don't know how this thing works. They're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally like we discussed in I think we were talking about incident response or something. And it was like, you're trying to change the tire on a moving vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
That is the image of what we're trying to do because I got to keep the car running, but everything's changing while I'm doing it. So they're doing things. And so some of these companies, they're changing their workflow. They're adding all kinds of, everywhere you turn, there's going to be, sanitizing gel. Some people, I think, are going to get dumped with sanitizing, like the slime on.
Yeah.
You have to take a bath in it. You have to wear a hazmat, whatever it is. And in healthcare, in the provider offices, you would think it's a lot easier, but their workflows are having to change. How they communicate information, how do they vet their patients and know when they have something that is a potential infection and how am I going to deal with this? And you have to have it down. And so the groups that have been in the hot spots have already figured this out. But the ones that are just trying to go back to work and they haven't been in a hot spot, they're going to figure it out on the fly just like everybody else. Because once you're in a hot spot, all bets are off. Everything you thought you knew is gone because it changes so rapidly. And a lot of folks are including that in order to come back to work, before everybody comes back to work, we're going to have the COVID test, the COVID-19 test. I'm sorry, the Rona test.
The Rona.
The Rona test, where that thing's going to go up your nose. And they're going to require that. So here's where things get tricky. And it state by state, it varies. Let me just say that right out, because we do not know enough about any in Georgia where I'm monitoring it. It's changing. So it's changing everywhere else. But the lawyers are recommending in Georgia that you can test for the active virus, but you can't test for the antibodies.
Okay.
So there in itself, you've got the question, and somebody asked me what's the difference. So let's just be clear on that. The active virus, you are infected, you are potentially able to spread the virus, so on and so forth. That's the active one. The antibody says that you have had it and your immune system has built up the antibodies to destroy it and fight it. So I can know if you have it right now, but I can't know if you have had it and your immune system won. So there's a question.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be sure, what are you going to do there? And I have to understand if I'm doing these tests, this goes back to the confusion with how a healthcare entity, if you are a covered entity and you perform these tests, then you are performing care. So what if you get your test for your employees? How are you going to make sure that when you're checking somebody's temperature every day, but when everybody goes to work and you send somebody away, now everybody's going to go, they got the Rona.
They got the Rona.
They got the Rona. So you're going to have privacy issues no matter whether you're under HIPAA or not. It's just that HIPAA makes it even more clear that we're supposed to protect the information of patients you treat.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if a business says, hey, local doctor, we would like for you guys to help us by testing all of our employees? Great.
Right.
We'll be happy to provide that service. Now, you've got your staff aware of all the people in the community. And you don't want somebody getting something in their mailbox that says we ain't delivering mail because you got the COVID.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah. We've talked about it. And there's many, many cases where people are, everybody's really bold about it until they're around somebody that has it. It's what you can see. I mean, you see so many people that were all, this is nothing. And then I saw a guy who posted the minute he was able to sit up and start talking, he was like, I wish I'd taken this seriously, and this was horrible and I was wrong. And a guy in Ohio that was like really this is nothing to worry about. It's just the flu. He died. And his family was like, if he could do it over, we're sure he would take it, treat it differently now, because he truly learned the hard way. You take this thing very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a position where you're going to expose people because you're not checking your employees, what does that open you up to? But at the same time, if you're checking them, how are you protecting their privacy? And if you're a covered entity, like Jack's example, where the business is self-insured, so part of them is a covered entity, and what happens? And we haven't had a case. We don't have any guidance. We don't know. But we do know that you should be figuring out how you're going to handle this. You need to write it down. You need to write down the advice you got and who you got it from, and create written policies and procedures about how you're going to manage testing, the knowledge of the testing, where the records are kept, who has access to the records. And if you are doing testing, you got to worry about reminding your staff that this is not for them to go tell everybody in the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's how HIPAA applies in this. This is going to be crazy. But you better take the time to think about privacy, whether you're under HIPAA or not. And if you're under HIPAA, then you need to be making sure that you are reiterating to your staff and that you figure out what to do when you have a positive test on your own staff. Because we already got a request about this.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a violation of HIPAA? I've gotten the emails asking me. And so if someone in your office is being quarantined because they've been exposed or they tested positive, then you've got to decide. You can't just be telling everybody that's what's happening.
We got HIPAA. We got HIPAA under control.
Yeah, we got this.
Our security's good.
But I would suggest several things, as I mentioned, writing everything down, because we just did an episode. HIPAA privacy still exists. And this pandemic doesn't authorize everybody that knows something to start telling people, because this can cause bigger problems. And we knew this from the beginning when the guy in Rome, Georgia had COVID and they wouldn't let his grandson in an hour or 2 hours away go to elementary school because his grandfather had COVID and they needed to keep him away. And he hadn't seen him like in a month. And his son was told not to come into work. And it's through the grapevine, the whole community's telling, this is not the way it's done. And there's a reason for it. In all of these cases, that was ridiculous to single out the kid. And you know how children are. You got the cooties. You can hear it now. So you need to have employee policies and procedures that clearly define COVID-19 information that you gather is not for everyone to share. And I would suggest considering adding new sanctions for people who violate the rules around COVID and share it just because they felt it was in their right to violate other people's rights. And you will hear that argument. I felt like I needed to do it. Clearly you did. Or you wouldn't have done it. But
it's
you were
a service for all mankind.
Yeah. So yes, it's very complicated. We have never been here before. But take the time now, make very specific decisions, teach your people how to handle things, because it will get worse. And you're going to run into new cases you haven't planned for, new situations. But none of us want to be the ones handling the tough questions of why didn't you or why did you do this, a year from now in the middle of a privacy complaint or even next week. So a few things that review your plans, have discussions between staff about patients and other staff members, and that TPO is the only reason you should be accessing accounts. And social media posts on the company website, as well as on their own pages, you don't say we had 4 people diagnosed at our office yesterday. That's not for you to disclose. Now, you can disclose it in private, maybe, but don't be posting that stuff out on social media to create confusion and then them wanting to know, who it is. And especially in a small town, please don't do that. And the policy needs to reiterate, right? If you don't have a social media policy that covers your personal pages and the company pages and mentioning the company on your personal pages, you should have one already. And then you should augment it to deal with this. And then a big issue, huge issue that no one's talking about is, we're all interconnected. So you have access to the hospital, the lab systems, all these other things. Just because you have access to those things does not allow you to use those to go look up information about patients and this disease. It's still TPO. Any access you have to information should only be through TPO and should be kept under our privacy standards. Period.
Yep.
That's absolutely essential. So, there you go, David.
All righty. I'm going to stay away from the Rona.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Steer clear of the Rona. You don't have cooties. Whatever it is. You know how it goes. And
you got to have a chute. So when people get tested, they have to go down the chute, shoots them out into the parking lot so you can leave without being seen.
Well, it's what do you do when you're testing everybody's temperature coming in the door and somebody's temperature is 101?
Everybody freaks out.
Exactly. and you're good. And I will tell you need to do this throughout the day because this disease comes on so quickly. You go from, I'm tired, don't feel good, to 101 fever and in a lot of pain in no time.
Could you do like Ferris Bueller and use a light on your forehead?
That'll work.
So, I need to go home early. Why is it every Friday you got the Rona?
I know, right? You're not in between. So there you have it. And it's very serious. And no matter whether you're under HIPAA or not, these are things that we have to figure out.
Yep.
And we have to literally do it, change the tire while the car's moving. That's exactly what we're having to do.
Mm-hmm.
So the better you plan for it, the more likely you will actually screw down all those lug nuts. The lug nuts, if not screwed down, we know what's going to happen. That phrase, then the wheels fell off.
There's a reason.
There's a reason. So there you go. There's all the things you should have learned today. There was a lot packed into our episode today.
Yep.
More importantly, knock me down and steal my teeth.
And of course, we
Perfect
learned
time to bring that out.
And we learned that Donna's calling everybody a bunch of loose nuts.
That one, we're going to have some fun with that one later.
Yeah. All right, that's our show for today, folks. Remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. And you can rate our podcasting app. Yep, we have an app for that. And help us spread the word. And as always, you can send in your questions and ideas and all that good stuff. And Donna will be sure to get back to you in her super secure email. So remember, folks, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.